eyes, and all of a sudden the answer just kind of comes to you, and you're just like, oh, there it is. And my biggest answer for me was like, what's the opposite? Like, I don't know where I read it, but it said most cures are the opposite of the disease. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So a disease just means that you're not at ease, just at dis-ease. So to get at ease, so it was like always the opposite. So for every poison, the antidote was always within, like the opposite of the poison is within the poison or whatever. Yeah. So I was like, what's the cure to depression? You know what I mean? I'm not gonna say it's the cure for everybody and everybody's depression, but for me, the cure for my depression was expression. So how can I express myself? Because I felt like it was depressing. Everything I was doing was counterintuitive.
What's up, kapwatids? We're back.
It's your favorite Ates, and welcome to season 4.
For those just tuning in, we are two Filipinx soul sisters on a decolonizing journey, currently based on Turtle Island, aka North America.
We met each other again this lifetime in a healing circle, and that's how the Babaylan Bruja Book Club podcast was born.
This season, we did something a little different by engaging in a series of study break conversations with honored artists, authors, and thought leaders in the Filipinx diaspora.
We enjoyed connecting with Kapwa with different perspectives and viewpoints, and we're so excited to extend these conversations to you. All right, in this next conversation, we get the opportunity to speak to rising actor Joe Corzo.
We learn more about Joe's creative endeavors, including writing, comedy, some music, and of course, acting. Joe shares his experiences being a biracial Filipino in Hollywood. So that being said, let's get into it.
All right, Babaylan Brujas, welcome back to another study break. We've got Joe Corzo with us today, and we'll go ahead and get into some conversation with him. But as always, before we start, we want to take a moment to ground, okay? So let's just take a pause to drop into our bodies and become fully present in this space. So if it is safe for you, if you're not driving or anything, we invite you to close your eyes, straighten your spine, and direct your focus onto your breath, and just really come into the moment. Perhaps if you are walking or doing things around the house, and just invite you to become present to what you are doing, okay? So take a few deep inhales, extending your belly out, and exhale, bringing your belly in. One more time, inhale, extending your belly out, and exhale, bringing your belly in. Continue to breathe slowly and deeply in your own time. Just invite you to connect back into your body and into this moment. Come into the sacred now. And as we begin our conversation, we'd like to thank God, Bathala Creator, for another gathering. In gratitude, we acknowledge our benevolent ancestors and our guides and invite all these forces to guide and protect this conversation today. We also thank the ancestors of the lands we both occupy. For Stephanie, that is the Bay Miwok Yokut people in the Inland Bay area of California. And for me, that is the mound builders that are the Hopewell and Adena people in Ohio. With gratitude, we also acknowledge your presence, kapwatid, your energy and your light, no matter wherever and whenever you're tuning in. And if you're ready, I invite you to open your eyes.
Wow.
Yay.
I'm all relaxed now. I don't know. I might have to take a nap.
You should acknowledge too, Joe, what land you're on. LA. It's the Tongava, I think. Tongava land. Yeah. Hey, Joe. Hey, everybody. Everybody all grounded and feeling present in your bodies. Thank you for tuning in. We are so excited to have you. So thank you for pulling up and showing out, showing your beautiful brown skin. A real purpose of this study break. You know, we want to highlight a lot of spearheaders in the Filipinx diaspora. And I was telling Sis Amy, I'm responsible for inviting Joe here. He's actually family friends. So, and from the Bay. Hey.
Oh, that's
and yes. So, tell us, Joe, a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, where you're at, where you've been, where you are, where you want to be.
Man, those are all great questions. I ask myself that all the time. Who I am. I mean, I am just this vessel living this amazing experience that God gave me. And I'm just so blessed and highly favored to be able to be here with you guys. So thank you for the collaboration and the invite. And I'm excited to, take on this journey with you wherever it may go, whether it's to just stay present or to take a trip to next levels of asking questions to answers we may not even know the answers to and just see where it goes from there. But yeah, I was born and raised in the Bay Area. I was born in San Francisco, grew up in Richmond, California, then moved to Hercules, California, then back to Richmond, then to Pittsburgh, California, ultimately making my way down to LA to pursue my ever expanding dream of becoming an entertainer somehow, some way, whether it was through music or through stand-up or through acting or through something. It found my way. And currently I am an actor in LA, SAG actor. And it's been a blessing on this journey. I mean, on the way to it. So just super grateful and thankful for the opportunities and the adversities and the growth that I was able to experience along that. And here I am with you guys. And excited to share anything that you would like to share with me.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what projects are you working on now, or that you're excited about?
Well, I'm not really on any projects currently right now. I am booked for a couple of stuff I can't really speak about, but things I've done in the past. I've done some co-star roles like on NCIS Los Angeles, NCIS, All Rise, and like Animal Kingdom, a couple Lifetime films. You can check my IMDb, Joe Corzo, Google actor. I'll pop up, and there's a couple of things out there already. But I just began about three and a half years ago, really going as a professional actor. But I did stand-up comedy for about 10 years prior to that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was able to open up for like some Filipino veterans like Rex Navarrete, who is a
snap, really?
Yeah.
What year was that? Because
that was in the beginning of my career, and towards the last, he's still touring, he's still doing his thing. I mean, Rex is, he's a staple, especially in the Filipino community. But my last time I performed with him was back in 2018, I believe.
Wow, that's recent.
Yeah, down here in El Cerritos. Cerritos, not El Cerritos.
Cerritos
back home.
That's in the Bay. Yeah,
Cerritos down in LA. Yeah.
Oh, so he came down to LA.
Yeah, he traveled everywhere.
Do you call him Tito? Is he?
No, I call him Rex.
You call him Rex.
You don't call him Kuya Rex.
Kuya Rex. He came out with a special, and it was filmed at SF State, I think.
Yeah, that was a while ago.
And that was, I still remember some jokes. That's dope. Yeah, I didn't know you were. I knew you were in stand-up and acting, but music. So tell us about the music.
Oh, music! I'm saying, I like, like everybody that grew up in the Bay Area, they all kind of like wanted to be some kind of artist in some way. And music was a very influential part of my life growing up, predominantly, rap music and so hip hop and all that good stuff. But I never really took it too far. It was just more of like, I was just more of a writer and used to like freestyle a lot and just like, it was just something to have a creative outlet, a creative flow. Before all that, I used to draw a lot and like sketch. So I always had like this yearning for like artistry, whether it's in any medium. But I knew I wanted to be a part of the entertainment industry somehow, some way. I just didn't know exactly how to go about that. I really didn't have anybody in my family that was a true, professional actor or artist, other than my uncle, Julian, who was a world-renowned tango instructor. So he was very into the arts. He was a martial artist as well. And so like that kind of like, kind of showed me like it's in my family, it's in my sphere, it's in my DNA somehow, some way. My pops used to be an artist as well, like just like a drawing and stuff. And yeah, it's just and then he used to like manage a rapper. And so it was like there, like, you know what I mean? It was in my sphere, but it wasn't until I got a little older and it just started dialing it in. Yeah, found a way somehow.
Yeah.
Because growing up Filipino, they want you to go to college and then become a nurse or a doctor or something after that.
Yes.
And that's all I see myself doing since I was younger. Like, okay, if I'm not going to be doing sports, I got to go to college somehow, and it's going to be on an academic scholarship or academically, I'm going to get something. And by like junior year of high school, that was not even, it just seemed so far away from that being the truth. Like, I barely graduated high school. I was like, went to independent study. I was a below average student. I went to 3 different colleges, dropped out every semester. And just, I just kept beating a dead horse, pounding my head against something that was not in my favor. And so I was lost for a long time, like a very long time. And, I thought myself to be a loser for a while. Like, I thought that was going to be my fate. And, and then people start labeling you kind of like in that, you know what I mean? The whispers behind, oh, is he gonna, oh, you know what I mean? Like, they don't say it to you, but you could kind of feel the energy, like, what is, because everybody else, oh, your cousin, she just graduated from SF State, or your cousin, she's going to be a doctor, your cousin, she's a, and then you always get that comparison.
Yeah.
And I was always proud of everybody that did make it and do that. And, and I was always excited for that, but it was like, when am I going to find my, what I'm going to do for the rest of my life? But everything that called me just seemed so far-fetched, right? Whether it was like music or like entertainment or anything, it just seemed like a pipe dream. It didn't seem real. So I was just this dreamer, essentially, and like not realistic. And then when I became realistic, it was when I was the most like not enjoying myself. Like I was almost depressed, you know what I mean? Like, and then I figured out, ways from whether it was like the law of attraction or finding my way back to Jesus Christ, or, I mean, 'cause you start to question things along that route. You're like, is this my life? Is this what it is? And then the more you question, answers start to come your way, whether it's through somebody speaking it or a book you pick up and you expresses it there, or a TV show or music or nature happening before your eyes. And all of a sudden the answer just kind of comes to you and you're just like, oh, there it is. And my biggest answer for me was like, what's the opposite? Like, I don't know where I read it, but it said most cures are the opposite of the disease. You know what I'm saying? So a disease just means that you're not at ease, just at dis-ease. So to get at ease. So it was like always the opposite. So for every poison, the antidote was always within, like the opposite of the poison was within the poison or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was like, what's the cure to depression? You know what I mean? I'm not going to say it's the cure for everybody and everybody's depression, but for me, the cure for my depression was expression. So how can I express myself? Because I felt like it was depressing. Everything I was doing was counterintuitive. Everything I was doing was like very resistant based and very like fear based. Like, if I don't do this, my family's not gonna want me or accept me or whatever, which they always did. It's just like this weird thing that I was creating this racket, this story that I needed to prove something to anybody and everybody, and it was not true, but I took it as truth. And then that became, more open to understanding that all truths are true. You know what I'm saying? It's just, you got to find what truth works for you and excites you and helps you become better and helps you help others better themselves. You believe that truth. And so that doesn't excite you no more. So that's why I got to a point where I wasn't judging anybody anymore. I was just reflecting. So if somebody did something that was amazing, I would go, oh, wow, that's amazing. Do I do that? And if I don't do that, how do I incorporate that? How do I adopt that and start applying it to my life? And if it's something that, was lightweight annoying or just wasn't, something I prefer, to lack of a better term, I would say, do I do that? And if I do that, check myself and don't do that anymore, right? Like, it's something that I like.
you were kind of like finding ways to express yourself that felt in alignment and felt integritous and brought you joy. And you landed on acting and stand up, and that I've seen you crack some jokes. I think we don't want to say vet, but I've also seen you like online, and I was like, oh shit, he got jokes, so and I can see how it lights you up. And then I haven't watched NCIS yet. I don't know how to catch those shows, but it's such a wonderful thing to see a brown man, a Filipino man, Filipino. You also have a mixed descent, right? Your last name is. Yeah. So tell us more about you mentioned your family history, who kind of influenced you to get into this. And now that you kind of found your way, which is, thank you for sharing, your journey and emotional, and how it kind of propelled you now to this path that you're on. I guess tell us more about, I guess I have like a two-part way. Like part of my curiosity is like you as a mixed Filipino man in the industry down in Hollywood. How has that been? And then also, how has that also, if anything, inspired you to get back, tap into your roots?
I've always been inspired to tap into my roots now more than ever. But before I was always against everything because I was so far removed, right? I was never Filipino enough for Filipinos. I was never Guatemala, like Hispanic enough for Hispanic folks. I was just always like, you know what I mean? And then we lived in a culture, growing up, I was born in the 80s and then raised in the 90s. And my family came in, they didn't teach us Tagalog nor Spanish because they didn't want us to have an accent. They didn't want it, we're very Americanized, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, and if anything, they were almost like second generation, first generation, though they came when they were like 5 and 12. And so they're still kind of young in America,
Right.
Well, still had some Filipino, and there was a couple of times where even with my grandmother, I would ask her, I told her I wanted to visit the Philippines. She was like, why? Everybody's here.
You're like, because?
And then that, and then I was like, okay, and it was just like, I wanted to, and then it sucked because I didn't know Tagalog, so I couldn't really talk to my grandfather and ask him questions. And so I really didn't have like that. All I had was the love that I had for them, right? I didn't really have like the true understanding and stories of who they were and where they come from. Never got to sit down with them. So I got a little older. I was able to have that conversation with my other grandmother, my Guatemalan side. I actually sat down with her last year, pushed record on my phone. She didn't even know. And I just started asking her questions. It's just like, where do you come from? What's going on? Like, how was it when you transitioned coming out from Guatemala to where you went? It was so many great stories to hear from that. So it was just a blessing to know that I come from, someone who was able to take a chance on her life and make it better for her and her son, and which is my pops at the time, and just making things happen. And she sacrificed a lot for me to be where I'm at. And the same thing with like my other grandmother, they sacrificed a lot, and I hear it through my mom's telling of it and my aunties and uncles telling of it. So I never really got it to hear from my grandmother and my grandfather themselves, but to hear it from my other family members. And I'm just starting to get to that. Even this past holiday season, I chose individual aunties and uncles to talk to and like get to know them. How was their upbringing, to know where I come from. And so it's something I'm going to be ongoing and doing for a while now. It's like one of my missions is just to keep asking questions about the people I care about and the people I come from. And so even being invited to this, I know you asked me about being mixed in the industry. It's been a little challenging because, they don't really see, again, like growing up, I did a joke about it before. I was like, hey, how you guys doing? My name is Joe Corzo. I'm Guatemalan Filipino, but to the rest of the world, I'm just Mexican and Chinese. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. Whoa.
So it's like, because they don't see like the little intricacies and the tiny differences, which is understandable because we all kind of see things in a broad structure, especially when it comes to like the masses. But when you get to an individual level, and that's what where it came from was like, well, I shouldn't have to be judged by, where I come from and who I am. But I can't fight that because that's exactly what's going to happen regardless. Like, you know what I'm saying? You can fight that all the time and be like, well, that's not who I am. That's not who I am. So when I would get like an audition for like a Hispanic person and be like, do they speak Spanish? I'd be like, well, why do I always have to speak Spanish? Like, I don't speak Spanish and I'm a Hispanic person. Why can't I just say it the way I say it?
Yeah.
But then it doesn't feed the story either. So that's me just being selfish. You know what I'm saying? So I'm starting to understand that. I'm like, okay, this is not about me, Joe Corzo. This is about the character. You know what I'm saying? And so I have to remove my ego and allow another ego in to trust me to share their story. So I can't just be like, oh, I would never do that. Well, it's not about me. It's why so-and-so did that. So let's find a way to find why they went that route and why they chose what they chose and the decisions they made to end up telling this compelling story. Same thing with like Filipino. I'd say, you know, it would say like no accent needed, but then you would read the writing and it's like, well, I can't say this without an accent. And, you know what I'm saying? I can't say this without a thing, but also I didn't want to put it in a way where I'm like really putting it on thick and like really make it a caricature of it too. Right. But I did get a couple auditions that were pretty awesome that I really wanted to, you know, nail, but it was even just amazing to just be invited for the audition as a Filipino descent person and saying that like, and I'm portraying a Filipino person. And then I did get one booking and I play a Filipino son to the mother and a Filipino mother is a Filipino ran company and show, which I'm not sure I could speak about it right now, but it was pretty tight to be a part of it. And I'm excited to see what comes of it. Yeah. And I essentially just kind of played myself and it was dope to do that. So yeah, I mean, I'm getting more excited about my understanding of like the world and it reflecting back to me being who I am and where I want to go and understanding who I am and what I want to do. So
I'm really hearing that like the way that you're kind of being guided to where you are now and the, you know, I know you can't speak of what's to drop, but you know, I think it sounds like, you know, the more you become aligned, the more that you feel like this is it, like this is where I need to be kind of thing. And I think it's a beautiful thing to witness. Filipinos, like I think we're gonna be in the industry like right now it's like the Bollywood kind of thing. That's what I'm noticing from what I observe in my little corner of the world, right? Like Bollywood is doing its thing because we're seeing more like brown bodies on screen. Yeah.
I grew up around a lot of Mexican people. I didn't grow up around a lot of Guatemalans. My dad was the only child, so there was other than my cousin. And then the only Guatemalan Filipino I knew was my sister.
Yeah.
And so me and her, like, so when I grew up around, when I was in Richmond at the time, I was growing up around a lot of Mexican people. And so I felt like I was Mexican. And then when I moved to Hercules, there's a lot of Filipino people. So I moved to my Filipino side. Yeah. But then when I was in Richmond, it was like more Black culture too. So I was like moving to my Black side. And like, I'm not Black, but I'm saying like in the Black culture.
Yeah.
And then when I got to Hercules, there's a lot more white influence, right? So it was like, because it was suburban. So it's like you start to see the dynamics. And I was like, wow, being mixed actually was a blessing for me because I was able to bridge gaps. I was able to understand and where I could talk to like the grimiest dude or whatever, and it'd be like talking to the king of England or whatever. Yeah. And I could talk to like the king of England and they'd be like, I'm talking to the grimiest dude. Like, you know what I'm saying? There was no difference of like, whoa. Yeah. The only difference that I felt was me personally, I felt uncomfortable in places that were rich because I didn't come from that. So it didn't really matter. Like I'll treat everybody the same, but it's how I felt myself being received as opposed to how I receive others. I wasn't allowing myself to be received the same way. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
And bridges are meant to be received. That's, you know, we're brown people, we're, you know, and then that's like kind of a reflection of you being in the industry too. Like you're like, no, I'm not Chinese and I'm not Mexican. Like I'm not a doctor or a nurse
either. But I mean, in San Francisco, there was a lot of Chinese people. And then they would still, you know, they would still kind of see the Asian in me. It's probably in my eyes or whatever. And they would still give me, as opposed to having another homie who's not Asian descent and they get treated a little differently. So I noticed there's little subtle differences. And especially when I was around like, you know, the Mexican homies or whatever, they'd be like Chino, you know what I mean? They call me Chinese because of my eyes. And then say they were like Asian, I'll be more like, oh, you Mexican, like, you know what I mean? Or whatever. So I got it from everywhere. It wasn't just like my own people. It was like, I mean, from not my own people, but my own people as well. So it's like getting all kinds of stuff. And you don't really see it affect you until like, it's just behind, you know, the brain and like, it's just like normal.
Yeah.
But it's not, it shouldn't be normal, but it is, but it is what it is. It's not how they treat you, it's how you allow to be treated. So
yeah, it's a lot of colonialism, I think. Like the colonizer like wanting us to look and act a certain way. So kind of just how you're out there pushing the box, right? Because you're pushing already the normal doctor, nurse kind of thing,
hey,
like
I'll
this
play one on
generalizing.
TV, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with those professions, okay?
Oh,
but
not at all.
it's just we are at a time now where we're challenging outside these norms or these ways of thinking and being, right? And so that's sort of like what the purpose of decolonizing, this conversation that I bring it to the table about decolonizing. So what is your connection to that, to the word decolonizing?
To be honest, when I read it, I didn't really understand what it meant at first. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, okay, I like that. It's like breaking away from, the colonizer, right? Like and then finding your independence, or going back to your roots essentially. And, again, like I've always been the type to not want to stir the pot or like rock the boat. And I think that was a lot to do with culture, right? It's like, be humble, don't be a show off, don't show out, don't, you know what I mean? Like, and that's just, if you do well or something, like don't be showing off and be like, oh, you do well. If you make money, don't boast. You know what I mean? Don't be
like Filipinos, we love showing up.
yeah.
But we finally get screen time, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or graduate, whatever.
I think it's like at the end of the day, it was like, it was not even just decolonizing from the colonizers, but decolonizing from, myself, right? And what I've allowed to colonize myself, how I look, how I should present myself, how I should think, and like, but there's also that balance, right? It's good to actually have that contrast too, of being colonized and knowing what you don't want and knowing what you're being restrained from, and then learning from that, because then I could easily colonize people too and not know that. Right? I could colonize someone's mind. I could colonize somebody's space and being like, well, this is the truth. This is the way. This is how you're supposed to do it. And then I push back. So anytime I felt anybody push anything on me, I would always push back. So the question I always asked anybody I ever met when I was younger, I was like a little philosopher. I was always like, if you knew something and you believed it so much and you wanted to share that with somebody you care about, how do you do that? I asked them. And then, you know what I mean? Because however they respond to me in that way is how I would share this thing I want to tell them.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? As opposed to like, Mom, the way you're thinking is so negative and you're watching the news all the time and blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? Because it would frustrate me to know that she's getting negative pushback from the news and then she's sharing it with me and then we're having a bad day. I was like, you know what I mean? But then, but I was like, well, that's not the approach, because she's gonna be like, well, this is what she's been doing for a long time now. So how am I gonna just tell her, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So same thing with like friends or family, you know what I mean? Letting them know, like, you're the one creating that, all the way you're speaking that to exist, you know what I mean? But then you start to come off a little condescending, like who are you, Joe? Like, who are you to tell me? Like, you don't even have. And then there was a time where I wanted to be a motivational speaker. But again, like I said, I thought I was going to be a loser for a long time. Like, I didn't have any credentials. I didn't have any credibility. I wasn't doing stand-up at the time. I didn't have a discipline. I was just this guy that had all this philosophy and no action. Saying all talk, but I had no result of what all this theory. I had all this theory, but I never had. I was just sharing it with everybody. Hey, see what happens. Is it working for you? Okay. You know what I mean? But when was I going to put it towards myself? And it was because I was afraid. Again, I was colonized, right? I was colonized with fear. I was colonized with, you're not good enough. I was colonized with, like, you're not the right skin tone. You're too dark, right? You're not the right whatever, whether it was something, from the past where I tried to, like, I was short or whatever. So all this stuff, that was my true colonizing experience, as opposed to the big picture, right? Because there is a big picture, but I never really saw that, because that wasn't my fight. My fight was in here. It wasn't out there.
Within.
Yeah.
Within.
Yeah.
a lot of the times in our conversation, Steph and I talk about, you know, confronting the colonizer that lives within us. Like there are definitely systems in play, but we can't really change the systems unless we change ourselves inside, right? So I really loved your reflection on about how you are asking your family like their stories, because honestly that's where decolonization happens, in the remembrance, right? So we're all trying to remember our roots. And it's interesting to me your experience as a mixed person. And you know, Steph and I talk about this too, about how our ancestral roots are very mixed, you know, because the Philippines in itself, there's a lot of trade routes, so there were so many different kinds of people coming in, you know, so there really is no one Filipino, you know, like what is a Filipino, right?
Yeah.
And so
and it's the spectrum is so crazy, because you'll have the very lightest skin person to the darkest skin person, and it's just like the people don't understand. I think we're like right in the middle. Right? We're like
that middle. Yeah. I'm a little lighter in the winter in Ohio.
But catch body part exposed.
Yeah. But catch me in the summertime. I look a little different.
I'll be browner.
Yeah. So I think what the people may really want to know from your growing up as someone who wanted to express themselves in the household that you did you sing karaoke? Yes or no?
I attempted for sure, but I realized really quickly that that was not in my
that's not in your cards.
That was not in my cards. But you know, I just didn't know how to carry a tune, you know what I mean? I love to sing, I love to express myself, but definitely not in front of a lot of people. But I did have karaoke in my house my whole life.
Yeah, that's a staple for sure.
Imagine you right.
Magic Mike.
Not
the stripper, but
the other Magic Mike.
The other Magic Mike.
Did you freestyle on the Magic Mike?
I've actually freestyled a couple times, and never on the Magic Mike. No. But no, that's so funny.
Right now?
Oh man, no, I'm gonna do that for you.
All right, my bad.
Yeah,
you on the hot seat really quick.
Yeah. No, it's really funny to hear that, because there was a lot of things I grew up with traditionally that I love about being Filipino, from the food to the family events. That helped me, especially in the industry, right? Like being able to like be respectful and say hi to everybody.
Yeah.
Like I say hi to everybody. When I walk into a room, I greet everybody.
Yeah.
Because when I was younger, I would literally greet everybody.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, hey, what's up, guys? It was like individually. Either shook a hand and kissed the cheek, shook a hand and kissed the cheek, saw a kid, brother's head, whatever. It was just like
mano too.
Or like blessings.
Yeah,
it was just something about like that really I look back and I love that about my tradition and my culture and what I bring to, because there's not a lot of people that do that. And also being able to be fed all the time and making sure you're feeding people. I love hosting. I love hosting. You know, I love just that environment, that family environment. You know, I grew up with a big family, so having that family environment's a big thing for me, especially out here in LA. I find that I was always looking for that, because I didn't have it for a long time, but I found it because that's in my roots, it's in my DNA. So I'm going to attract family vibes, right? So it's not something that's far from me. So that's why I'm so grateful and thankful to be able to have the upbringing I had, you know, especially with it being predominantly Filipino upbringing.
Yeah.
But there are some things that I wish I did have more of, and that was like more of the language, more of the understanding of the culture. But again,
growing up in the 80s and 90s, that I feel like that our generation, that is a sentiment that I hear a lot. Like my parents didn't want me to learn Tagalog because they didn't want me to be confused or have an accent or just be separate. They really wanted us to be, if you want to think about it, they wanted us to be colonized, but colonization meant safety, right?
They wanted us to conform.
Yeah, right, exactly.
They wanted you to, yeah, of course, because they only had so much protection over you, because they see what happens to people that are different.
Right. Right.
So if you could just at least be as close to
yeah,
what they feel comfortable around. Yeah. So it's like,
yeah.
but you don't think about that until like retrospect. Now I understand.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, but now it's beneficial to be bilingual.
Yeah.
It's beneficial to really be about your shit. Like, I'm sorry,
yeah,
be about your culture.
You can cuss.
And really be about, you know what I mean, and understand, like, you know, and it's like, wow, because before you couldn't really represent like that. You had, you know, like I was pro-American. I'm still pro-America, like, because this is my home. This is where I live. Like, where am I gonna go? Like, you know what I mean? Go back to where you came from. I was like, back to the Bay. I'll go back to the Bay. I go back to the Bay. The furthest I can go is back into my mom. Go further than that. Like, I didn't go anywhere else. I haven't even been, you know what I mean? So it's like, I understand what it means to be a mixed race American man. That's who I am. And it gets very niche, because I'm not just a mixed race American man. I'm a mixed race American man that was born in the Bay Area at a certain time, at a certain day. And that's my individuality. And that's what I really hold on to the most. Yeah. And that's my roots, right? Yeah. So by the time I get to my understanding of my ancestral roots, and then beyond that, that becomes like that, you know, that tree, and then it kind of like, and it's like this. Yep.
There's a concept called kapwa, KAPWA, which is like everything is connected. So that concept that you just said, like to get into your roots, to get into your ancestral roots, and all, it's just all of it is connected. Like, it's all of connected.
Because so, you know, because I always was reaching out.
Yeah.
I was afraid to go in. Because I was afraid what I would see, or who I was, or what was I strong enough. But at least when I looked out and I saw like the homies making it, or I saw my family making it, or I saw like a superhero making it, or I saw like, yeah, I mean, I was always reaching for that and like attaching myself to those things and going, but those heroes fall. Yeah. They fail. They're human. And then once you go inside, you start to really find your strength. You really start to find, you know, the rock. Yeah. And ultimately you find, you know, God.
Yeah. So going back to your story, just real quick, about how you were really, you know, you mentioned several times that you thought yourself, you were very depressed. You thought yourself a loser, that you couldn't really, you know, capture all your dreams. But here you are now. You know, our journey is up and down. So I'm not saying like you know, we're all healed on this side, but you know, what would you say to somebody who is telling themselves like, man, I'm never going to accomplish my dreams, and they see everybody else around them doing things they wish they could do? What would you say to them from the space that you are in right now?
Yeah, I shared something recently when I was doing an interview for this University of San Francisco's film group, and they asked the same question. Essentially, they were like, you know, if you could speak to your future, your past self, what would you tell yourself to these creatives? And the biggest thing that came out with, as I thought about it, was love yourself. Find that love for yourself, because without love, you cannot create. And the way I found my love for myself was kind of wild. And I would have shared it there, but it was like not the space for it. Yeah. But here, I think it's very, you know, tone-wise, it's great, because I was in a space where I'm like, whatever works, like, because I went the opposite so far, you know what I mean? Like from drugs to whatever, just escapism, to like the opposite, to like, let's get clean, sober, figure ourselves out, dive deep, what we got. So I was on like YouTube, and I found like this meditation, or it found me, however you want to see it. And, you know, I clicked it, and I just sat back, relaxed, and it just kind of just said, I don't know how it happened, but I don't know what it said. It just talked me through whatever. And it takes you to like a part of your life when you were a child. It just takes you there. And then it just took me there. And then all of a sudden my imagination or whatever was going on just kind of took me to this one particular moment in space and time. And it was so vivid. It was so powerful. Just a preface to it. when I was younger, I would always sneak into my mom's room, my sister's room, and sleep on the floor. There's a part of me that felt like my family wasn't safe without me, or I would lose them if I wasn't there. It was weird. And so I would like try to like sleep near them to make sure they're okay, or essentially make sure I'm okay. Because, you know, because without them, I wouldn't be okay. But I was like scared for them more than I was scared for me. But you know, my grandmother caught wind of that. And she was like, hey, you know, if you pray and you could ask God to send down your guardian angel when you go to sleep to watch over you. I was like, for real? She's like, yeah. So, all right. So next night I prayed and gave it a beat, you know, waiting for my guardian angel. I'm thinking my guardian angel is like hella popular and saying bye to everybody. Because, you know, you got to say bye to everybody. Can't just be like, Joe needs me, I got to go. He's like, all right, y'all, you know, I got to go. Joe needs me. So I gave it a beat. And then I waited for a feeling. And then when that feeling came, I just greeted my guardian angel. Good night, go to sleep, boom. Say that to say, when I'm in this meditation, I go back to that moment. It takes me to this moment where it's like third person. I'm like right here. And then myself, I'm like my young self in bed. And I'm doing my prayer. And I'm waiting for my angel. And then all of a sudden, this angel appears at the foot side of my bed. And then I recognize the angel. Do you know who the angel was? It was me. In the moment I recognized the angel as me, all of a sudden my perspective from the third person became from the angel's perspective, looking at my younger self. And the love that I had for myself, the unconditional love that I had for myself, and the protection and the care that I had for myself was so overwhelmingly amazing and beautiful. I damn near had tears in my eyes. Yeah. And I was like, that's the unconditional love that I'm looking for myself. That's the unconditional love of God. That was actually God saying, this is how I love you. And you love yourself like this. The way I love you is going to take you to levels that you have never experienced. And then when I had that feeling, and then I felt the security between me and the young kid, and I felt the innocence of that young guy. And that innocence still sticks with me today. And I see myself as that young child, no matter what, because I'm a child of God. And so no matter what, I feel that unconditional love. And that's how I found the love for myself, was through that experience. So whether it's through meditation, come to Jesus moment, or whatever the case may be, I just say you keep asking yourself and find that way to find that love. And however it comes, just know when it comes, and you anchor that feeling, no one can take that away from you. I don't care what position you're in. Not even the devil himself could take that away from you.
Yeah. Woo! All right. That's good.
Yeah, it was powerful.
That's really
like higher, like your higher self tied to divine was like,
it was
love yourself.
Love yourself. And it was weird to like really feel that. And I think it was like an accumulation of all kinds of things. I could like really dissect it and like theorize on it, of like, you know, I've heard like exercises where you could look at a picture of you as a child, and then, you know what I mean, that's how you could find that self-love for yourself again, and, you know, other stuff. But it was just that experience alone, and then the connection of like the past and like where I was, and then seeing the angel and then believing that, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was so trippy. And again, I was sober. Like, I was like 2 years sober at the time. So there was no psychedelics that was in there. I wasn't on some ayahuasca or nothing like that. I wasn't on mushrooms or anything. I was just in this moment of like, let me find whatever message that you're trying to send me, because I'm lost and I need something. And if you can share with me something that will shift this feeling, because I don't want this feeling anymore, I'm open. and then that came right through.
That's beautiful. That is powerful.
Yeah.
So love yourself. I love that. So the Babaylan in pre-colonial Philippines were the spiritual leaders.
Babaylan?
Yeah, Babaylan. So there's a lot of rituals that they participated in. So just to wrap it up, we kind of ask everybody who we've interviewed, like, do you have a meditation ritual? Do you have an artistic ritual? What are the rituals that are important to you for either your craft or for daily living, so you can like be your best self and live your best life?
Man, that's a great question. I mean, when I saw that question on the when you sent that to me, I was kind of like, wow. Um, I never really had like a ritual, but I have done rituals to like, for myself. And I'm just always finding it. Like, again, like all truths are true as much as like all rituals are true for me, like as long as it excites me. Because sometimes the ritual is done, right? It's like it no longer, it served its purpose. So you have to find another one. Like, because at the end of the day, I think rituals are things to get you to believe, right? It's the same thing for like acting. The goal for acting is to be playing a character in an imaginary circumstance, right? And believing it, like truly believing it, not, like pretend is not faking. Pretend is an extension of reality, right? It's like you're extending the reality. You're extending the moment, the as if, right? As if something is happening. So it's the same thing like the placebo effect, all those things. So all these rituals are essentially the same thing. It's like the moon is full today. Yeah. And somebody told me if the moon is full, this is the time of manifestation. So I have to release any negative blocks so that I can allow the manifestations to come through. And I've done that a lot of times and it's worked. Put a, you know what I mean? Or I'll, things of like New Year's, my tradition or my rituals is like having money in the drawers, money in the corners of the windows, and money in my pocket, money in my bank, full tank of gas, fridge full, just abundance going into the new year, calling my friends and family, so that I have that love going into the new year and all this stuff. Anything you're doing in the new year is going to set the tone. Making my bed every day, like things of that. These are little rituals that like kind of get me going, and making a call to somebody, and just calling a family member, a friend, like always staying connected, praying every day. Like I pray so unconsciously, like it's such an unconscious thing I do. I'm like praying as I speak right now. Like I'm constantly, my life is a prayer. Yes. And I learned that prayer is preparation. I didn't know what prayer was until someone told me, like, I thought praying was wishful thinking. Yeah, I mean, I'm praying for a good outcome. I'm praying for this house. I'm praying for this job. I'm praying for health. No. Meaning, I'm wishing for good health. No. Preparation. I'm preparing for good health. I'm preparing myself to receive the blessing. That's what prayer is. Taking a moment to prepare to eat this delicious food. I'm like, wow, I never saw it like that. So it's just that shift, right? So what prayer wasn't working before is because I was utilizing it in a way where it was like, so it wasn't doing its purpose. You know what I mean? So once I realized the meaning, I was like, that aligns. That means something to me. Okay, that clicks. So now I try that, and then I apply that, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. So yeah, things of that nature, right? It's like anything I could do, I incorporate some type of, breathing, right? Like I've had anxieties in the last couple years, and I never had anxiety before. Maybe it wasn't as noticeable back then. Maybe I did have it and I didn't know. And I just kind of brushed it up. But I've had it to where it was like, whoa, what is that? You know what I mean? It felt like I'm dying. I'm like, what is that? And it was like caffeine. Like it was caffeine. I was like,
oh my gosh.
I was thinking like these little Bang energy drinks or whatever. And that was like during a stressful time in my life. My nephew passed away around that time, and I was driving back home for the holidays, and I was just getting into acting, and I was between like family and career and like what's priority, and like it was just like, and I started having like this panic attack on the road. Just tripped me out to it kind of showed me my my mortality, essentially, like how finite this experience is. And and it spooked me because before I was like, it was whatever, I was like, whatever happens to me, I don't care. Like that was a point in my life where I didn't care. Like I was like, bring it on. And then now I'm like, whoa. I got a lot going on. But then now I'm trying to find that detachment. So God is trying to tell me like, yeah, Joe, things are going great again in your life. So, but just know it can be taken away. So I don't take anything for granted. And again, I don't live like a hermit. I don't live like, a monk. Don't get me wrong, but I also take precautions, and I'm more open and aware of what I consciously take in, digesting, whether it's energy that I'm digesting, food that I'm digesting, you know, thoughts, information that I'm digesting, because, you know, we're going into an age of the, you know, the metaverse and like AI and all this stuff. And I always have to, you know, that's going to be in conflict with my belief systems and, you know, triggering situations that I have to be able to navigate.
Yeah.
And I ask God and, you know, higher self, universe, whatever you want to call it, to guide me through it, because it got me through the pandemic. It got me through like things that I never thought I was going to get through. Got through like, you know, the passing of my nephew and like allowing my family to heal and, you know, ongoing healing process. But still, like, I'm able to live out here and not feel worried.
Yeah.
I'm not that kid sleeping next to the bed anymore. Right. That's what I felt. I felt like I had to go back home and be with my family, because I didn't want that to break up anything that was, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so God had my back on that. He's like, I got you. Just, you know that we love you. And they allowed, because during that time I had a premiere to go to for like a little feature film I was in. And I booked a commercial, my first commercial around that same time where my nephew's funeral. So it was just like, what do I choose? Like, what is,
okay.
I didn't know what to do. And then my family took me aside and they told me they want me to go. And, you know, even in the grief, and this is not the first time that's happened. I've had like somebody pass away. He had 2 sons pass away. A neighbor of mine, 2 of his sons. You know what I'm saying? And this guy was like an alcoholic and like, you know, and then he loses his 2 sons and he was just broken. He's a big macho dude too. Like, you know what I'm saying? Been to prison, all this stuff. And he was just like, he took me under his wing. My next door neighbor, he would help me with like fatherly stuff, help me with my car and stuff. But when he lost his 2 sons, he knew my dreams of being a comedian and moving to LA. He comes up to me in this moment of grief and tells me to keep going. You know what I'm saying? Like he wasn't telling me about his woes and how he felt. He went to me and gave me his blessing to keep going. And then I wish I could thank him. I don't have his number anymore. Like, but his encouragement during that time helps me keep going too. I mean, there's a lot of people in my life that help me keep going, but there's those little moments and understanding, like, no matter what I'm feeling. So even when I'm in grief, I always tell people to keep going. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I can't be the one to be like, oh, life sucks because my life sucks. Like, you remember you asked me, like, when I tell somebody who's like feeling all bad, I'm like, well, shit, you know, sitting there, man. Yeah, I mean, you made your bed. But nah, I can't, not anymore. Not if I know better. So.
Yeah, Steph and I were just talking right before our conversation with you. We were kind of talking about, or I was saying how I feel like comedians, they're funny, but a lot of funny people, it's a very both and. They can be funny and even inspiring people, you know, like your neighbor who was going through grief. It's they have something inspirational. They have something funny to say. They have a funny observation because they are in grief, because they are in the shit, dealing and healing, you know, trying to go in on their own healing journeys.
Thank you, Joe. We so appreciated your presence, your wisdom, your
thank you so much.
And you know, thank you for spending time with us and the world, whoever listens to this from here on out. So
it's a pleasure.
Yeah, we wish you well, and you know, we see you out there. So keep going, keep doing your thing. And
Mabuhay.
So before we go, where can people find you? Do you have a website? What is your socials, etc.?
Oh yeah. So you could check me out on IG, The Real Joe Time, like spelled The Real Joe Time, TheRealJoeTime. Or you could just Google me, Joe Corzo, JoeCorzo, and I'll pop up most of the time. And yeah, you can find all my stuff there. JoeCorzo.com is like my acting stuff. But yeah, I'm excited to explore this journey of life, and I'm hoping that you guys will cross paths with me around that time and just say hi and just enjoy the moments.
Yeah, we'll see you around.